Swanglin Show, episode 33. It's going down. I'm joined today, Joshua P. Dunn. It is I, once again, on the Swanglin Show with the Swanglin heavyweight champion, current reigning, the first guest ever, the longest. It's some pure wizardry.
You
From my friend in South Florida down there, MrGrippz is with us today. And as well, Kyle Newkleus, Holsinger, the homecoming king, the fickle freckle boy living in the sea, my co-host with the fucking most, is joining us. Kyle, what's popping?
Same old. We're here to talk about some crazy shit. So let's get into it. What up, Vice?
What up? How you doing?
Well,
amazing.
The world is wild. And another W word there. The world is wild with Wolverhampton on Newkleus's chest there. He's always rocking the Wolverhampton soccer jersey. So we're going to shout that out. And also shout out to MrGrippz, always representing those South Florida sports as he's pulls up in the episode 33 special throwback Alonzo Mourning Miami Heat jersey.
Think so.
Shout out to Alonzo Mourning, legendary career down there. For
Back.
Sure. So, episode 33 of The Swangler. We're going to talk about some wild shit that's going on in the world today. So, recently, the other day, what was it, 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago, the country of Russia does a military invasion of the sovereign country of the Ukraine, which is one of their bordering and neighboring countries. And there's been some pretty graphic images, and there's been all types of crazy shit in the news condemning the Russian leader Vladimir Putin and the Russian Federation of doing some grimy shit out here. And I want to pass the ball off to my dog Kyle Newkleus, Holsinger, my co-host here, and I want to ask you, Kyle, what do you think it is that's going on over here on the Russian motherfucking front?
I think this is a continuation of the Cold War. Vladimir Putin was a former KGB agent, and so when the Cold War was lost for the Russians, he took that very personally, and I think that he envisions something even beyond the Soviet Union, though. I think he envisions, earlier he talked about like Tsarist Russia, and I think he envisions himself as like a Napoleon of Russia. And from Ukraine, where they fit into it is, they're just a big nation with some fucking oil, dude, and some resources. It's always been a battleground in the Cold War. Ukraine has been the battleground of the Cold War in a lot of ways. And if you want to go to a little more recent history that involves Putin himself, 2014 on, he is annexed and taken over chunks of Ukraine, starting with Crimea and then the Donbass region, which is where he started at the other day. I think he envisions himself on some kind of czarist messianic legacy for his people. But I also think he's miscalculated as far as the response internationally that was going to happen.
Well,
and I mean, that's about like lay it up there.
Well, there's a very deep history, like you said, of fighting, especially in regards to the Cold War and protesting. And there's been a pretty rich history of that type of stuff in that area post-World War II. And a lot of those countries have saw, regime changes, and we've saw military interventions in a lot of different places across the world, not just by the Russian people, you know what I'm saying? But what's unique about this scenario is the Ukrainian government in 2014 was replaced by a new form of government backed by the United States, right? So
yes.
There's people saying that they feel like Putin and Russia may feel as if we are developing weapons and intelligence on their border, which would be some type of like international crime, I guess, in their eyes. So apparently, from research that I've saw that's gathered, there's multiple regions within the Ukraine where they have denounced that newly formed government and they don't want to adapt to that leadership, and they've been ostracized. And I've seen it referenced from a different news source. The RT, which I know, Nuke, you have your own opinion about the RT. You know what I mean about their credibility and stuff. But every major media outlet, regardless of what region it comes from, these companies are bought and paid for, and they spin narratives that pertain to what's best for the story, as opposed to sometimes what is necessarily the truth. In Kiev, which is the capital city, right, of Ukraine, Kyle?
Yeah, Kiev is the capital.
Okay, so in 2013, their president, Viktor Yanukovych or some shit. I don't really know how to say this shit because I'm whining. They delayed a signing.
Yanukovych.
Yeah, Yanukovych.
That sounds right.
They decided to delay the signing of a association deal for the EU. And there was peaceful protests and shit going on over there in the Ukraine. And then the pro-Western factions came in like 2014 and they overthrew this dude. And they took like an anti-Russia stance when they came in on there, and it's on the border, right? So I have this question. Like, I'm seeing these videos and shit of like them bombing buildings and shit, right, Vice?
Mm.
And it makes me wonder, like, regardless of what the political standing is and whatever the ramifications that maybe led up to this whole thing happening in this world, like, at what point don't we think that like that type of warfare is like excessive?
It's always excessive. I mean, war is there's no good outcome. You can say it boosts the economy a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's loss of life. And diplomacy should be the push. It's hard because you have super right-wing conservative, almost communist at this point, Russia, and an oligarch like almost czar-like person in Putin. Like, there's elections, but no one's really overthrowing him because it's like a show. It's like a dog and pony show. It's smoke and mirrors. It's not a fair election. At the end of the day, war is never the answer that you want because only the people are going to suffer.
Yeah, and that's the whole fucking deal, It's like
Putin's not out there with a gun on the lines. He's not the one facing, missiles dropping from the sky. He's in a fucking suite in his, Kremlin, fucking it's innocent kids that signed up to defend their country and believe in the sovereignty of their country on the Ukrainian side and believe in their government on the Russian side, that, it's like old men start wars for young dudes to die in, to quote a dope MC, Ill Bill.
Yeah, shout out Ill Bill. He's a big time slept on rapper. That's a nice reference.
Yeah.
Now, I'm joined by my man Kyle Newkleus, whole singer, the Fickle Freckle Boy from the motherfucking sea. He's in the house. Now, you know a little bit more about like the activities in the region that happened like post that new government installation in the Ukraine, right? And the United States has been involved in scenarios like this before, like where we went into fucking Libya and shit, and like the whole fucking Yemen deal and the shit we did in Afghanistan. We like try and like fucking involve these and build and form, put people in power that best benefit the United States and reform these governments. And then the shit just gets fucking steamrolled. You know what I'm saying? And it turns into this clusterfuck scenario. So do you think that maybe this scenario with Russia, with the United States and being involved in the forming of that government, do you think that helped lead up to this whole fucking deal happening?
Well, I want to say that your reference there about the like Afghanistan stuff is dead on, and I think that this will be Russia's Afghanistan. But I mean, you can make the argument, and you can make the argument for the Israeli-Palestinian thing that it's been going on for years. But if you want to get technical, this really comes down to like 2013, 2014, and just recent history of changing governments. And the last government, Putin cannot allow any of the former Soviet states to succeed in Western. And like he can't let any of his like he can't let any neighbor or former Soviet state ever succeed as a Western nation, because then his people and the other Soviet states will never, ever come back to his way of thinking. Ukraine has begun that process, and they've elected a Democratic, president and all this, and they're trying their best to start over. And Russia, prior to Putin as well being the main leader, but as the leader as well, has like cut out their legs from underneath them whenever they could. And like if you look at Belarus is basically a Russian state and another name, and that's a neighbor where they were allowed to use, Russian military was allowed to attack from. They want them to be a puppet state. Ukraine feels like they're a separate people and should have their own identity. And, the Soviet Union's over, they are a nation, so they don't want to be ruled by Russia. They didn't ask Russia to come in. Russia is coming in as an aggressor, kind of like how we went into, I would say, Iraq and Libya, more so than Afghanistan. Afghanistan was based off of the fact that they were hiding the Taliban running Afghanistan was hiding Al-Qaeda. You can make a legitimate legal argument for why that's a perfectly reasonable explanation to go into Afghanistan to root out Al-Qaeda, who committed 9/11 based off of the official story. Here,
that official story is incorrect, because we now know from recent documents that the Saudis funded 9/11. You know what I'm saying? And if we're going to go into going against Al-Qaeda in the Middle East, we're the ones who made Al-Qaeda. We created Al-Qaeda to fight off the Russians when fucking Russia was taking over the Middle East in the late 70s or whatever. So,
all right. So are we going to do a reverse here? Are we going to fund the Ukrainians, which I believe actually we should? I feel the American government.
We've been funding the Ukrainians.
No,
that was the whole thing.
Yeah. So I agree.
That was the whole thing of why Trump was impeached, because he's like, look, if you want your arms, you got to say Biden did all this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Amen.
So if we've been involved, in the rebuilding of their new government, and when I say we, I guess I say the United States government, that's not we.
Right. And NATO.
You know what I'm saying? That's not
and
we.
NATO.
And NATO countries too, because it's like, okay, Ukraine wants, like you said, their current government is pro-Western. The previous government that was overthrown in 2014 was pro-Russia. So the new government that was overthrown, and the old government that was overthrown, the new government that was put in is more pro-NATO, pro-West, joining the rest of the world. Russia's still got that Cold War mentality. Like Kyle said, they're being standoffish, and it's like, Putin's just a little son of a bitch.
Well, shit. If we're talking about little son of a bitch, I think that that's pretty a fair, accurate assessment that Vladimir Putin is a little son of a bitch. And I think it's also a fair assessment to pretty much say at this point, dude, with the world landscape, that pretty much everybody that's a high-level fucking politician is pretty much a little son of a bitch. Because, dude, these motherfuckers are grimy. They're always getting into something, striking shady deals, getting offended. There's always military occupation in places. Like, dude, didn't Israel just drop bombs on fucking Syria like 2 days ago? And like the fucking United States just dropped bombs on fucking Somalia, and nobody's talking about that shit. You know what I'm saying? But and it's crazy because the media outlets, depending on where you live, spin things a certain way and suppress certain things, and they make sure that certain things don't become a story. So that way you can't
Facts.
find out about what the truth is and what the events are that lead up to these type of things that happen. Because if you look at like the global landscape of the world, like as far as imperialism is concerned, you know, the United States is a major nation, Russia is a major nation, you know, China is a major nation, but there's not very many countries that are at that level, that hold the type of weaponry, have the type of military arms, have the structure and resources, superpower countries, right? So America is a great nation, right? We live here, we feel safe here, you know, because of the structures and it's a powerful country, right? Russia's the same way. So if say, you know, in a hypothetical scenario, just to twist the perspective and see if the tables were turned, you know, because we like to do shit like that here on the one and only Squadcast, episode 33. We're going to call it the Alonzo Morning Edition because of fucking Vice's jersey. We got to spin this, though. So, like, what if America, as another superpower country, as is Russia, what if a scenario like that happens on our border with a neighboring country, something as close as Mexico or Canada? How do you think the United States would react to that as well? To where it's like some countries aren't even referring to what is happening over there as an invasion, a military invasion, even though there's people losing their lives. And, you know, these type of military moves that these people do, man, they're not blowing up the fucking governor's house, dude. They're hitting the streets. They're killing fucking, you know, it's random citizens that got to deal with this shit in the crossfire. So I gotta ask my man, MrGrippz, what do you feel about that aspect of this whole deal?
Well, I mean, I know for a fact that the United States wouldn't have no shit like that. Like, let's say China started doing a lot of business with Mexico and was setting up on the border of Texas a bunch of, you know, different scenarios that were pressure towards the United States. We wouldn't be having that shit. We'd be like, yo, this is some bullshit. Like, we would definitely be expressing our concern for that act of aggression, which we would call it that. And that's what Russia's calling the setup of NATO and American forces on their border, even though it's, you know, for Ukraine. You know, this whole situation is sticky, and we can see it in recent history with, you know, Donald Trump pulling out American troops and then Russia coming in right away, pretty much during his presidency. Yeah. You know, I mean, this has been like, those are little sparks. The overthrowing of the government was enough to get the eyeball from Russia on them in 2013, 2014, you know, but supposedly the youth, especially of Ukraine, were very unhappy with that previous regime. They're a lot more pro-current regime with Zelensky and the current government that's in place over there. So, you know, it's hard to discern everything from our perspective because we get everything third hand. But, and like you said, you got to see, are these news, it's a sad reality that nowadays we have to say, are these news sources credible? Even with the big news companies like CNN or Fox News or whoever, New York Times, like, these are supposed to be credible sources, but you see time and time again, they'll either skew or omit or slightly alter like concrete information to point or align or allude to a certain angle and perspective. And with that type of shit, like, it has to be left up to the, you know, it's hard because, you know, they want to be entertaining and engaging, and that's how they make their money. They're a business at the end of the day. Their business is news. Their business is selling you information. So they got to make it to where you want to consume it. If it's too dry, like, this is what's going on and everything's left up to the person, you know, not many people are that intellectually there to process everything and come up with their own determining factors. People just want to be told what to think a lot of times.
Oh, yeah. So, it's what would be called and considered textbook sensationalism. Now, my man Kyle Newkleus, Holsinger, jump in. I seen you wanting to jump in there.
Well, all that's true. I feel like most news sources, like the main ones, I'm talking Associated Press, Reuters, people that actually have buildings and do it for a living, and like, I don't know, they have to go to journalism school to get a job there. I feel like they do their best to be factual. There is a difference between an article and a opinion piece, an op-ed. So like, I think sometimes people think that like an opinion piece is a fact piece, and some people like don't understand the difference, because like there's certain opinions that are, that's one thing. But then there's like, 265 troops died today, blah, blah, blah. That, facts that they're reporting that are as close as you can get. They're trying their best. I think that, when you look at like Project Mockingbird and you're going into like, the media and like stuff like that, I think in order for an operation to work where you're going to plant ideas into them, you also have to have actually factual news, because after a while, if the news isn't factual, then no one's going to buy the shit. But we're in a post like trust world. Yeah. Nobody trusts the sources. But I do feel like if you went to Northwestern Journalism School and you got a job at like the San Francisco Chronicle, I think you're doing your best to keep your job and be as accurate as you can.
I think that's naive. I think that's kind of naive, bro, because it's like saying that you went to medical school and you became a pharmacist and now you're selling OxyContin because people have back pain, but they're just telling you that they have back pain. And it's like, it's in their interest. Their interest is to sell you the news. And remember,
I know.
A great philosopher once said that the best place to hide a lie is in between two truths. So, just because
exactly. And yep.
Just because they got the credentials, they went to the schools are funded, they get funding from the news corporations, in a cycle, it's a wash. It repeats itself. Sometimes, you got to look at that and at least, if not use that as a discrediting factor, just keep it in the front of your mind to understand when you're receiving information, where it might be coming from. Like, let's say in the nutritional side, they say certain alternatives to sugar are not good for you or may cause cancer or this and this and that. And a lot of those studies are funded by sugar corporations. You know what I'm saying? Like sugar farmers. And you can, if you follow the money trail, you might see who's behind the keyboard on these, little news articles that people are reading online. That's why even before we got on this, just to do a little behind the smoke and mirror shit, I asked Josh, like, yo, where are we getting our sources from? Because you got to check your sources. You got to, even everything you hear on the Swanglin Show, you little son of a bitch, when you're listening, you got to research it. Go online and not just research it by pulling the top shit off Google that they're going to show you because you searched for certain things. They're going to give you certain articles. That's an algorithm. You got to dig deep in the Google pages and follow like the links that are in the articles. Yeah. Because the articles will cite where they got their
information.
Oh yeah, dude, definitely.
Exactly.
See, now, when we kind of went down a little rabbit hole here when the whole deal took off, me and my old lady, we kind of started going and we listened to a bunch of like investigative journalism from people like The Last American Vagabond, a podcast called The Convo Couch, where it's this dude, Pasta and Fiorella, where they do a lot of really good work. This lady, Whitney Webb, as well, is also a really good investigative journalist. As far as like independent people, that's a good place to get some resources and where I've pulled some of my information. And then we also started fact checking and looking at different, CNN coverage, MSNBC coverage, Fox News coverage, RT coverage, different Euro coverage, and looking and trying to see what the differences are between the way this whole deal is being reported from the different avenues, because, like we said earlier, there's different types of sensationalism always involved depending on, who it is that's backing these outlets, because these media outlets are funded by fucking companies. You know what I'm saying?
It's not even that. I gotta jump in real quick too, because I think it's a dangerous thing to say that individuals and like in the field independent reporters are less culpable for spreading misinformation. Don't get it fucked up.
This is true.
The independent guys they're trying to do it for a living. So of course they want you to consume their product, just like the big corporations, because they trying to eat too. So just because someone doesn't have a big corporate backer doesn't mean that they're not trying to make money and fucking give you stuff that you're going to consume. So the independent can be just as fake news as the big corporations.
That's how a lot of news sources got their start, for sure. That are big today. Yeah.
Now, Newkleus, the fickle freckle boy living in the city.
Also, I did want to say though, about the Ukrainian situation is what like absolute resolve the Ukrainian people have. And you were talking about other like nations and stuff. I listened to some Israeli policy type podcasts, and I listen to the Times of Israel has a few podcasts. I listened to one of theirs, and so Israel's kind of stances before all this. I can't speak to what's happened in the last 24 hours or something. You know, I'm not, but that they were gonna try to stay out of this because they have a lot of business with Russia. But if they asked if any Ukrainian Jews wanted to come to Israel, they would facilitate that in any way, shape, or form. And if they were to hear word of any kind of like improprieties towards the Jewish community in there by Russian troops, then they would hold another thing that Russia would be dealing with.
I don't think they're going to do that. They have enough history.
But I would be willing to bet now that things have changed with how things have turned over the last few years. But what resolve by the Ukrainian people to fight back though too?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you got to fucking tip your hat there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, anytime you see something happen, it kind of makes you think, right? Like, what if it was our country that was being invaded? You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't be these fucking people that make the decisions that got to fucking sit out here and make some shit happen. It's going to be people like me and you defending our families, defending our property, defending.
Well, this is why the Second Amendment is so important and the right to bear arms, because ain't nobody invading the United States. Come to Dade County, you know what I'm saying? Slide through Cary, Ohio. We bucking, popping off. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody, there's more guns than people in this country, especially in the South. Like you come down here to Florida, you got to assume everybody's strapped. You know what I'm saying? Because it ain't nothing to be strapped. You could just go buy it. You know what I'm saying? Walmart's slanging them, shotguns, rifles, whatever. So, you know, like, there's different laws up north in different states, but down here in Florida, like, as much as I don't like a lot of our Republican leadership, they make sure sometimes that we have important issues on the forefront, like the Second Amendment, like the right to bear arms, because if you can't, I mean, we're seeing now a rush to arm the Ukrainian people so they can defend themselves from this invasion. This is why the founding fathers put this shit in the Constitution. The founding fathers didn't foresee this kind of military action, but they already knew power. If there's not equality of power on both sides, the weaker side's always going to suffer. So you got to be able to defend yourself.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, as far as like the United States always fucking reaches out and we fund these fucking groups, dude, that always fucking turn out to be a problem. You know what I'm saying? It's always a fucking thing, right? We always have this fucking knack for like coming in to these fucking wild out scenarios, arming a fucking militia pretty much and training them and giving them fucking resources that are far beyond their fucking needs, things that are deadly fucking deals, right? So in this whole fucking scenario with the Ukraine, there is a right-wing extremist like portion of the National Guard of the Ukraine that's called the Azov Battalion. Are you guys hip to this shit? Okay, so I'm going to screen share this because this shit is fucking wild. The Azov Battalion is, let's see here. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, but I can't read it.
Okay, it's a neo-Nazi portion of the fucking National Guard of the Ukraine, right? So it's like a volunteer militia that was incorporated into the National Guard of the Ukraine. And if you look over here, the logo of this motherfucking battalion is like a fucking sideways swastika, like super suspect, right? So there's been a lot of reporting, especially in the RT. I don't know if whether you guys question the RT's credibility because it is a Russian news source or whatever. It's a controlled media source, just like a lot of our media sources, you know. So you got to take everything you read in with a grain of fucking salt, you know. But it's been reported by them and multiple people that there's portions of this new regime of government in the Ukraine that represent Nazi values. And there's pictures floating around even of like members of their National Guard set up with the Ukrainian flag and a big Nazi flag. And there's areas in the Ukraine that denounce that new government. You know what I mean? They're like traditional Russian speaking Ukrainians that still kind of lean and identify to Russia. They want to be independent states. And a lot of these people have been killed, you know what I mean? And protesting and firefighting with the Ukrainian government over like denouncing that, you know what I mean? So they're saying that Putin is coming in to end a war as opposed to start one. Kyle, what is your opinion on that reporting? Do you think that's factual or fake news? What's the deal?
You got advice, or you want me to?
No, you, my friend, you.
Oh, sorry. I had to go. All right, dude. Right. So Russia, RT is Russia Times. That is a state-owned Russia propaganda. That is part of Putin's story for justification for doing it. Was that there's a couple things that don't make sense with that. One, Zelensky, who is the head of Ukraine right now, is Jewish and is openly Jewish and has a great relationship with Israel. I don't think he would allow a neo-Nazi group to be a part of his military. I think that'd be rooted out right quick. And if Ukraine was having a problem with these people and needed Russia's assistance, then they would ask for it, as opposed to Russia just coming in and saying they need to help.
Well, see, here's the deal. The Ukrainian government, though, also is saying and arming citizens. They're saying everybody that wants and can get it, no man age, whatever to 60 can leave. Yeah. Here's the heater. So what do you mean they're not fighting with these people? No, they're definitely being manned.
They're fighting the Russians.
Right. But the crazy part of the whole deal is if the United States is involved in the structure of building that government, right? Essentially, at this point, we are arming neo-Nazis. If those arms are being handed out to the public of Ukraine, and there's this white right-wing section of the Ukrainian National Guard that's being fucking pinpointed as having neo-Nazi idealism, wouldn't you say that pretty much the United States stands a way larger role in what's happening over there right now as opposed to what our media is spinning it to be?
The Biden administration has been like as transparent as they can be about this. They're not lying. They've told everyone they're giving them assistance. Like they've told everyone that, you know, they've said Russia's going to attack, and they did. They said Russia was going to do this, and Russia did it. They've been as honest. They took a policy of just being honest as this was leading up to it. And I got to commend the Biden administration for that, because they could have like tried to play games and stuff. And I think that might have been something that Biden saw happen in the Obama administration with Russia that he learned from, to the point where when this was leading up to this, they started telling American people in the world, Putin's about to do this and he's going to use these excuses. And then Putin comes out within a week and says all that stuff, you know, and then he had more to it, but it was the gist and all this. So like, if we're arming neo-Nazis, dude, there's neo-Nazis in the American military. There's extremists in every military that take stuff. So if a couple of the guys that get some of the guns happen to be extremists, as long as they're shooting at Russians, then who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Spicy.
That is definitely fucking spicy take by the fickle frickle boy. Kyle's busted out.
Dude, they're fighting for their land, dude. There are guys right now that are walking they're transporting their families to Poland, the Polish border. They're kissing their families goodbye and going back to fucking fight for their homeland. Right now, at this moment.
Yeah, this is
all
true.
day long that's been going on at the Polish border.
Yep.
That's the reality, dude. People are fighting for their fucking homes. This is not they're being invaded, dude. This is not a peacekeeping mission. They're trying to take over the capital. Putin has said he's trying to overthrow Zelensky. And if you want to talk about neo-Nazis and stuff, Zelensky is a Jewish person. He's openly Jewish. He raises Jewish children. They, keep Shabbat. He would not be putting up with some kind of neo-Nazi faction in the Ukrainian army. He's Jewish, dude. It's just ain't no way that's that's cool there anymore. Ukrainians have if you want to look about the history about this, Ukraine gave more lives than any other nation during the Holocaust, during fighting, during World War II. They gave up 7-8 million people. This whole thing is just a pretext for Russia to go in. That's RT. That is Putin's line he's toting, and RT is backing that up in their swing. I mean, are we funding Ukraine? Yes, but the Biden administration is being honest about it, though. I mean, you can't say they're hiding it. They're going out every day saying we're giving this, we're doing this, we're doing these sanctions, we're doing this. They are being transparent right now because of how people aren't trusting anyone anymore. They're just laying the cards on the table. And even to a bad point, though, too, because Biden laid on the table that American troops aren't going in to appease the American public, so they knew that they wouldn't have to worry about the troops going over there. But he took that card off the table for Putin, though, and so it might have been a misplay.
Yeah.
But he was trying to save face with the nation. We might have made a little misstep there, but it's all right though, because the way that the nations came together, NATO and the European Union and all that, the way this shit's coming together against Putin, it looks like the two sides are going to try to talk it out.
Well, and hopefully for the sake of the world, there is some type of resolution that goes on there, because nobody wants to see no shit going down like that, where you see missile videos of motherfuckers getting ran over in tanks. I know you guys saw that shit. It was wild as fuck. There's a video of a building getting smoked by a fucking rocket and missile and shit. And it's when this type of deal happens, no matter where it's at in the world, the people that really get affected by it are just regular fucking people like you and me that are trying to have a family and trying to live peacefully, and then their whole neighborhood gets fucking blown up. And when these military invasions happen, a lot of these fucking people that are soldiers, if you look at the history of war, these people really take advantage. You know what I mean? When they come into these villages, if you look at stuff that happened in Vietnam, and there's been a lot of rumors of things happening during the United States, when we do our fucking deal in the Middle East and shit, of soldiers doing real deal dirt against civilians, and there's lots of war crime that happens no matter what the fucking war is. And the people that really
Abu Ghraib.
The people that come up on the short end of the stick are the people. So even if, say, the United States imposes the heaviest of fucking sanctions on a country to kind of cripple their economy, I mean, is that really hurting the people that already got billions of dollars, or are we just fucking with the people that live there? Vice, what's your take on that?
It just fucks over the people that live there. But the thinking is that squeezing that pressure, what is a king to a nation that has no people? So if you crush the essentially whole country, it's not going to make it something that king or ruler wants to rule over. So it's you're kind of weakening them from within, but the ones who suffer first are usually the innocents. So
and that's where I have to interject, though, because it's are these governments having the mindset of a fucking Game of Thrones, or a chessboard looking game of Risk of real life, to where everybody is on this imperialism deal, right?
Yeah.
But if that is the thing, then we as people need to be able to recognize that these media outlets that are feeding us the news of what's actually going on are full of shit and biased because of that same fucking reason.
Yeah.
Newkleus, what's your thought?
Just like Russia Today or RT, whatever it is is, you know, a propaganda machine of Putin. Our news outlets are generally propaganda machines of their own self-interests. And a lot of those line up with those who donate millions of dollars to them, or vice versa. Everyone's hands in everyone's pockets. And it's an unfortunate reality of not just foreign governments, but it's our own government. You know, you can look to the many, you know, they mask it with like the Freedom of Information Act and you know, the right to ask questions and your rights and everything. But it's just like, you know, you have the right to bear arms until a police officer deems that his life is in danger and he smokes you for having a gun. Then did you really have the right to bear arms in the first place?
Yeah, and you also have the right to privacy until someone feels like they smelled something, and then they can search through your whole shit and rip your whole fucking thing apart, right? So you see these deals like when countries do military style invasions and occupations in countries. And when I say you see countries do it, I'm talking about our country, because we do it more than anybody ever fucking has. You know what I'm saying? We have to look at this from a standpoint as like, I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to say that Vladimir Putin is the good guy or the moral good guy. But there is portions of this backstory where it kind of seems like the United States' intelligence game and trying to run their imperial game is coming close to what he's trying to do. And in some regard, we have to say, okay, if we're going to adapt this mindset of imperialism and we are playing a game of Risk, you don't look at the next dude that's on the same, damn near the same level as you, and you don't play or hate on his imperialism. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of my vibe off of it, is like,
no, you have to. You have to, because
you have to.
You have to hate on number two because it's a threat to number one.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like right now, my Miami Heat are number one in the East. Chicago's been on their heels. I root for the opponent of Chicago every time they play because it drops them in the standings. I gotta root for number two to fail because I want separation from my spot. Just like I'm glad Mitch didn't show up to this episode of the Swanglin Show, because this squad cast is now getting a little bit separated with the goddamn heavyweight champion of Swangle. You dig what I'm saying?
Oh, I definitely dig it. Like a shovel, like a brand new shovel.
I'll cut on that right there. You know what I'm saying? I'll let loose, but yeah, so of course number one's gonna hate on number two. That's just the nature of the beast.
All right, so you're right. That's part of it. But like a big thing with this is you got to, like what Putin said earlier this week, dude. He's talking about reforming and going taking over all these countries that were former Soviet nations, dude. If we don't stop him here, he's gonna go to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. And let's say he takes over all the old Soviet states. If he doesn't do it, or if he does that, who's to say he doesn't go into Europe, into Finland or Sweden or to fucking Germany? Like, so the shit that he said earlier in the speech on Monday was batshit crazy. I'm like Catherine of the Great shit, dude. He's trying to take it back 100 years in world standing, and he's being an aggressor. The United States is not taking territory anymore. Yeah, we committed genocide on the whole continent. We did a lot of fucked up shit when we had to take it over too. But we are past our imperialism age. Except we are keeping this imperialism in check. What he's trying to do is not what we're trying to do.
We don't physically go into countries except when we invaded Afghanistan for in Iraq for shit that the Saudis fucking funded, and that we self-trained because we trained Bin Laden. Bin Laden was a CIA agent. But if you want to even talk further, we may not send troops, but we definitely fund opposing governments. Like in Venezuela, we have tried to overthrow Hugo Chavez because he hasn't been very friendly to United States interests, even though his interests are mainly set up to help his people, because he feels that the United States interests are detrimental to his own people. So is he in the wrong? Is he really the terrorist and the evil that the U.S. media has made him out to be? There's actually an interesting documentary Oliver Stone went down there and did a whole documentary about this that I watched. And, you know, it's about perspective. You know, who's telling the story is really important.
Well, I think on the Swanglin Show, episode 33, it's been great so far getting these opinions from you guys. We're fact dropping. We're talking about the difference in media coverage. We're talking about all types of wild shit on the fucking Swangler with the heavyweight champion of fucking Swanglin. He's dabbling. Right. He's got his own chain Swanglin. Kyle, what can you say about that?
I have a question. I have a question for Vice. Okay. As a Jew who knows his World War II history, do you think it is okay for Putin to take over Ukraine?
No.
Knowing what you know about how this is the biggest buildup since World War II. Of military buildup since Hitler took over Czechoslovakia.
Yeah, what Russia is doing is not cool. You know what I'm saying? If they had an issue with something that was going on, like I said earlier, use diplomacy. I think that's been my stance the entire time. War is never good. The only time, the only people that suffer in war is the individual people, the communities. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be the stray bullets. They're going to be the casualties of war. They're going to be the unfortunate circumstances of this chessboard risk. You know what I'm saying? Prick waving, egomaniacal show of hand, which, you know, if you want to say, Russia's number one or two, we're number one, us going on the border with NATO is an act of aggression towards them. So they feel it's just all posturing, is prick waving, is whose dick is bigger. And yeah, exactly. That's an animalistic thing. And it's something that is a reality. And it's unfortunate in our society nowadays. I mean, we got fucking all kinds of technology. Science is advancing all the time. We need to be past this primitive mindset of like, you know what I'm saying? You better do this or I'm going to blow you up. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I say that at the same point where I feel that in the everyday too, because when someone does something, slights me, it's hard for me not to go back to that street mentality of where I came from and not be aggressive. I try to be civilized and, you know what I'm saying, do the right thing and say the right thing. But, you know, I be wilding out in traffic when people cut me off. Florida, Miami drivers especially are shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you almost kill me and almost hit my fucking luxury car. I'm gonna come out and beat the brakes off you. But, you know, I'm trying to hold that back nowadays because we older and we can't be catching those kind of charges no more. But
dude, you remember when I was down there in South Florida, we were driving around, blowing down, me and Vice Grip riding around in the South Florida sunshine in his damn luxury vehicle, this little son of a bitch, you know, stunting and jet setting as the Swanglin heavyweight champion. I was down there. We were riding around, blowing down, listening to the new Retrograde album that you can get everywhere that you listen to music. And this man is just a psycho in traffic. I'm telling you right now. It's wild. I seen him. He had the fucking, what was that? He was all sweaty, red skin. He had like a fucking potato, red skin, no jab at my Native Americans out there, but Vice was all red faced. And he had the fucking veins popping like fucking Randy Savage, dude. And he was like, you fucking son of a bitch, try and cut me off. We were at the gas station and you would have thought it was going down live on pay-per-view down there in motherfucking, where were we at that time? I think we were in Davie, Florida at that time.
Yeah, Davie, Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood area. But, you know, because people are stupid, dog. They just fucking, they almost kill you and then fucking, they mad at you. So it's like, you know, what are we doing on a larger scale on the national front? Like,
what can we do so we look at this shit, right? And one thing's for sure is I got to say this, man, if you're listening to episode 33 of the Swanglin Show, you got to know that, you know, we're chopping it up with each other. We might get heated and shit and chop it up, but we're still friends no matter what at the end of the day. And I feel like people, like Vice said, you know what I'm saying? People got to be able to come in and use that diplomacy to solve their problems, man. And don't be fucking blowing up buildings and shit. There's always got to be a fucking resolution at hand. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to be putting people in position to fight for their fucking survival and shit out here, man. This is the fucking
And that's the main thing. It's like people are dying out here. You know what I'm saying? You can say whatever about whatever, but at the end of the day, the loss of life is the tragedy.
For sure. Amen. Putin has put the nuclear Russian sites on high alert over the last 24 hours. And earlier in the week when he did his little speech thing, they had this little parade where they were showing off nuclear weapons. He told basically anyone that's fucking helping Ukraine, gets involved in this, is going to pay, blah, blah, blah. Everyone is united behind Ukraine, said this is fucked up. So, like, you have a man who said he's going to take over all these other countries. He's willing to use nuclear weapons. Like, he's batshit out of his mind. It reminds me of, like, some of the Iranian stuff from years ago. But where he's at.
Dude,
but I feel like
I see what you're saying there. And I've seen people on some media outlets kind of draw a direct reference to Hitler. And I don't necessarily think that's fair. I don't think Putin's quite on Hitler level, but he's clearly, he's got a vision. He has a vision that one would say may be detrimental to the United States interests that are at hand.
Militarily, he's similar to Hitler, and as of now, like what he's done is the last time that something this big has happened, that was when Hitler did his shit.
Can you really say that though? Because what about us? What about the United States going into fucking Afghanistan? I would say that's on the same fucking.
We're talking
scale.
about I'm talking about in Europe. I'm talking about in Europe.
Gotcha, my friend. I just wanted to make sure.
The biggest troop movements in Europe since Hitler did it.
Yeah, this is true. Now, my man ViceGrippz, the Swanglin heavyweight champion of all time, is in the building, and he just threw that little jab at Marinated Mitch. We're missing Marinated Mitch today on the Swanglin Show down there in Jonesboro, Arkansas, the #1 contender for the Swanglin heavyweight.
Get a little separation. We gotta start calling him #2. I think I might want to hold on to that #1 just to myself. Might have to just say #2 in the ranks or something. But we'll let that be where it is.
See, it's the Swanglin Show where, one thing that I've drawn from this whole thing, man, and I gotta make sure that this message gets conveyed to the listeners of the Swanglin Show, that you better not ever in your life, you little son of a bitch, try and knock on my imperialism. You know what I'm saying? When I'm out here on my motherfucking popping my motherfucking shit, trying to build my motherfucking empire, and I'm on my fucking imperialism. Don't you ever in life try and knock my imperialism. Kyle, what the fuck do you think about that shit on the Swanglin Show episode 33?
It's the American way. It's capitalism, baby, the free market. And the difference between RT and like our media is like RT is controlled by Putin. It's owned by, because he controls the state and stuff. The media we have is like this competitive market system where we have Rupert Murdoch, who's fucking Australian but also British, but yet he throws all this money into the fucking mix to have an impact with, and now a Saudi owns Fox News, and like, so you have like other people can get into the interest. It isn't just our side. Like, we have people vying for the Americans' public's attention, other interests.
Now, but on the fucking Squadcast, the one and only Squadcast, we have our own interests. You know what I'm saying? What about our empire? We're playing a game of fucking risk and chess out here too. So what do, man? Do we go and we just target a fucking podcast and say, guess what? You're part of our podcast now? Vice, what do you think about that?
Yeah, we set an over aggressive vibes to all the other podcasts out there. We're putting them on notice. The Squadcast is here. You know what I'm saying?
No, listen. No, dude, we got to do it on the chill, bro. And be like, look, it's a peacekeeping thing. We're coming over here, and like 2 of us come over for like an episode, and then we just show up when their next episode is supposed to happen, and like all of us,
No,
I think more of the troops start funneling in. Is that what you're saying?
I think that I think just in reference of history. You know what I'm saying? To pay ode and pay homage to the best fucking pro wrestling storyline of all fucking time. When the Swanglin Show goes to make our move, we have to do it scripted exactly just like the formation and takeover of the fucking NWO, New World Order. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna come in too fucking sweet style and fucking take over the fucking podcast market share. And you're looking at this dude, fucking MrGrippz right here, the Swanglin heavyweight champion. When he shows up with this fucking Swanglin championship on the fucking podcast scene, you guys better know. I was chopping it up with him earlier today, and he's talking about going to the gym 5 days a week. So he's ready for Marinated Mitch. He's ready for fucking Stan Edwards Jr., the fucking king of the mid.
We getting it.
He's getting it popping over there in South Florida, feeling the sunshine. But he's still pasty fucking white. That's the best part.
Well, I am part Russian, so
Okay. So I said on the last episode, if you were looking for the fucking sneaky Jew that runs the fucking world,
Get
there
the
he
fuck out
is.
of
It's
here.
the fucking Swanglin heavyweight champion of
You
all time.
crazy.
He's the
Get the
dirtiest
fuck
player
out of
in the
here.
game, like Ric Flair.
Don't listen to him, people.
They said that about Flair, man. We've been drawing these comparisons every episode.
Where'd you get that information? RT? Fuck
Yeah.
out of here.
Hey, you sound to me like you could potentially be the Russian asset, my friend. You're talking about you got the lineage and the heritage. So the Swanglin Show, we're out here talking about dominance. We're out here talking about imperialism. We're talking about all these fucking crazy things, dude, that are going on in the fucking world. And it just makes you kind of, you have to feel for the Ukrainian people. And you have to feel for even, you see them protesting in St. Petersburg and in Moscow against the military action and stuff too. So that even the Russian people know what's coming and what's happening, and people don't really want to be involved in no fucking type of war, period. And I think, as countries, we have to have foreign policy, and we have to barter, and we have to do economic deals with a lot of these nations in order for the world to stay afloat and everything be harmonious within the world, right? So I think that what we should do is, instead of, spending billions of dollars to fight some fucking fake war for people, some business's interest, which is normally the fucking case. The people in power have business interests in other places. A lot of wars get started. I mean, you can run down the fucking history of the world. And a lot of the times, most of the time, in the early ages and formations of our current fucking society, people were going to try and take the land. You know what I mean?
Land and resources.
Now it's about the resources more, and the if you look at the history, some of these countries, man, people get fucking slaughtered, man. Like whole populations of people get genocided. You see the type of shit that, like, what Hitler did in World War II, not fucking cool at all, yo. We got to make sure that as a society, I guess, the United States always has to play the fucking world police. But I guess in some instances, I guess it's good that there's somebody there to play the world police, because if we're going to be the world police, we're not going to be going and invading and beheading people and, like, persecuting and genociding people.
Yeah, you hope it's going to do the right thing. You have civilized countries. That's what the United Nations and NATO is for. NATO is supposed to be, that force for these kind of situations, to where big countries are not taking advantage of little countries by force. It is diplomacy. Like, we're at that point in society where it's like, we got to let war go. It's not healthy for the planet. It's not healthy for the people. It's just all bullshit, all around. I quote another artist that I listened to, Max Cavalera from Sepultura and Soulfly. He said, can you, in one of the songs, I think it was the song Frontlines from the album Dark Ages, he said, can you tell me who has won when nothing remains? Like,
real talk. That's
if
a
we're
great
gonna blow each other
question.
to shit, like, who's winning?
No, definitely. And it's like, you see, anytime there's war, dude, it's bad luck. I mean, some people would argue that there's money in war, and there's people that make a ton of money off that military industrial complex. So they want to see a sense of conflict, because they got to keep that paper rolling, then building their own little empire of doing what they do. So it's like, the world is corrupt, right? And the world is fucked up. We know this. All three of us are in agreement of the fact that we know that the world that we live in isn't what it's portrayed to be in many instances, and it's fucking slimy out here. So you got to be real careful of who you're dealing with. You got to know the facts when you're addressing situations. You got to go into everything with an open mind, knowing that it could be you that's in the same position as one of these other people, like whose town's getting fucking bombed and blown up, or it could, the tide can turn and you could see some crazy shit go on out here. So make sure that if you're listening to the Swanglin Show, episode 33, you mind your fucking business. That's one thing that we got to fucking prove throughout this whole deal, is that you don't got to be involved in other people's business. Don't knock the next man's fucking imperialism. That needs to be a t-shirt. Don't knock my imperialism, signed Joshua fucking P. Dunn. Today the P is for platypus.
I'm surprised.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Kyle didn't throw out the D word, democracy, in this whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a lot of what it comes to over there is the Russian or the Ukrainian people want democracy, and Russia ain't really about real democracy. They're about that that red side, that USSR. They're still in that Cold War mentality. So it's like, you know, we all know Kyle loves him some American D. Some good old American D. Look at that thumbs up. Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle, you better not try. No matter what you do, you better not try and force that American D on anybody. How do you feel about that?
Well, the American D is trying to keep itself in its pants nowadays. But like this situation, it's like with Israel. If Israel's a democracy, and if they're attacked, you know, we come to defend them. It's part of our policy. It works for us to have democratic nations. And I think Putin's actions prove why the UN should exist and the NATO and diplomacy, those avenues should exist, because this shit should be a last resort. But this dude is on some other shit. You can't reason with someone like, the only thing that he was going to accept is if we gave him Ukraine. Ukraine doesn't want to be, you know, they don't want to be given to him. So they won't. That's as you're seeing now. They've lost. There's been over 3,000 Russian troops killed. More than that, like over that, and probably even almost getting closer to 4,000 by the next day or two. Like they're not. If enough Russian people come home in body bags, the Russian and the sanctions hit hard enough. The hope is that we could have Putin. You know, the Russian people will throw them out. They'll have democracy too, like in a sense. Yeah. You know, they'll finally get a true democracy. Throw him out, and then once they throw him out, we'll take the sanctions off. That's what's going to be. But this isn't a day-to-day thing.
Good fucking luck with that. Don't hold your breath on that.
Oh, I know, dude. He's not giving up, dude. It's going to be a month to years thing.
Well,
dude,
here's the deal.
It's like an iron.
He's not giving up.
On the Swanglin Show, episode 33, man, I can't co-sign the player hating.
I agree.
Know what I'm saying? I just can't say I can't co-sign the sneak dissing and the fucking all the crazy shit that goes on in the world of politics, man. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, I feel like I can't blame, the people and Ukrainian citizens for grabbing that heater and just fucking holding it down, because in reality, we only have what we have, man. We're just regular fucking people. So like, what if the tables were turned, So it's like, Nuke, you're dropping them statistics about the Russian soldiers that are deceased or whatever. And RIP to them, man, that's fucked up. They didn't make that call personally for that to happen. They just got sent over there because that's what their job is and that's what they do. And now,
but whatever job you have, whatever thought you thinking, whatever extraditional bullshit, you come up on my shit, you run up on my shit, I'm smoking you, dog. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't run up on my shit.
Yeah.
When you invade my home, my personal space, I'm not asking questions. We shoot first and ask questions later. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, that's the crazy
part. They
part.
have the right to defend themselves.
Yeah, they do have the right to defend themselves. I feel like everybody in the world should have the right to defend themselves, because really when it comes down to it, man, it's all about the survival. We got to fucking survive. We got to advance. We got to move forward. And to see crazy shit like this happening in the world is detrimental to everybody's advancement.
Yeah, one thing I just thought about, and I'll say, is we're never going to get away from this, the differences in classes. There's going to be haves and have-nots throughout the course of history. It's never going to be this socialistic utopia of everyone's got the same. It's not how it works. You know what I'm saying? There's elephants and there's mice. Everyone's got their part to play. It's an ecosystem, the world. So like, you're going to have the poor, you're going to have the middle class, you're going to have the rich, and you're going to have the ultra rich. You know what I'm saying? And then you're going to have that top of the top. We've seen it throughout history, and it's better nowadays because the majority has forced the minority to at least make some concessions in the power agreement, because the power agreement is they got everything and we don't have much. But as you see in modern times, we have a little bit more than what our grandparents and their grandparents and their grandparents had. So we have to keep pushing our power as people to gain some of their power, so we have a more comfortable living scenario and it's more fair, at least in the tipping of the scales. They're always going to have more, you know what I'm saying? Unless you're part of that, you little son of a bitch. If you're in
You
that
little
top
son of a bitch. Yeah. Shout out to these little son of a bitches worldwide that want to
if you're born with that platinum spoon in your mouth and you got it good like that, more power to you. We see that. But we want ours. And that's just how it's got to be.
And that's what's crazy, right? Is there's always like this insane amount of territorialism that you see everywhere you go in the United States. Everybody's got a strong regional pride. And it's, you come to Ohio and it's like, yeah, Ohio, you'll get knocked the fuck out here, like straight up. You go to South Florida, it's motherfuckers like, bitch, you've come to fucking South Florida, I'm gonna fuck you up. You know what I mean? You go to Cali, it's like that. You go to the places in the East Coast, it's like that. You go to everywhere, it's like that.
It ain't where you from, it's where you at.
Exactly. And that's the fucking wild part of the whole deal, is that if you look at what's going on over there, it's no different than what the fuck goes on over here. It's just their political system is different. The ramifications are different from them. A lot of, we see everything from that standpoint of, number one, like you said, Vice, we're all the heavyweight champion. You know what I'm saying? We live in the United States of America. We have more freedoms and rights than anybody in the world. You know what I mean? So, that is debatable too by some people's context. I guess we could do a whole episode about that. But it's always great to be able to have these conversations with the fucking homies, man, on the one and only Squadcast. It's episode 33, the Ukraine versus Russia convo.
We got to give a shout out and love to Ukrainian people that are out there fighting for their homes and their families and their freedom. And you know what I'm saying?
Shout out to them for sure, man. Major shout out to them people that's holding it down. Me and Nuke were chopping it up in a private conversation, like shortly after this military strategic move by Russia was made, and we were talking about, like, what if you're a soldier, and you're in the Russian army, and you go to this fucking firefight and your gun jams, and your opposition's gun jams, and then you look at the face of the person as this fucking former world champion Vitaly Klitschko, that you got to now bare knuckle fucking fight for your life, dude. Oh my God, could you imagine that feeling?
He just hops over the tank, and you just see that fist coming at you that's knocked out so many top competitors in the world, and you're like, I'm 125 pounds. Blam! Vitaly Klitschko with the fucking jab.
Oh, yeah, dude. Vitaly Klitschko was heavyweight status, bro. He was a fucking great boxer.
He might be out there punching tanks. You don't even know.
Well, now I think that we should definitely give him this shout out because he's violent. That dude's out here now as a part of, the Ukrainian.
He's a mayor.
Yeah, he's part of the Ukrainian.
He's a fucking mayor.
He's out here representing, and he's involved in this whole, he's a chess piece in this whole scenario that's going on over there. So we're going to give a major shout out. Vitaly Klitschko, man, we hope you make it through this crazy shit that's going on out here. And hopefully, if that scenario ever presented itself, oh my God, dude, that would be wild. That'd be wild to be the other guy on the side of that. Cause I'm not sure of the exact statistics, but I'm pretty sure he's bigger than like 6'5". He's got the heavy hand, I'm sure, just like the Swanglin heavyweight champion down there in South Florida. Now, Vice, I got to ask you a question. I know you're a sportsman of sorts, you're a fan of athletic entertainment, if you will, whether it comes to football, basketball specifically, we know you represent for them Miami Heat first place. You know what I'm saying? And me and you got it in common on the Miami Dolphins tip, as well. Yeah. We got to represent, chop it up about the Miami Dolphins for sure. But I see you got the boxing poster in the background there. We're chopping it up about Klitschko having the heavy hand. Who's your favorite boxer of all time?
We got the Tyson Holyfield from back in the day. My pops gave this to me. You know what I'm saying? So Tyson Holyfield, OG poster. Promotion from from their first fight. That was the first fight, 1991. Crazy how long it was.
Who is your favorite though, boxer?
I would say Evander Holyfield.
Okay, so you had the babyface choice, man. For me, it was Tyson. For me, it was like, oh God, Tyson is violent, and you are like pretty much.
Oh no, I like Tyson, but there was fighters that Tyson didn't fight because Don King was his promoter and he didn't want him to get Buster Douglas before, you know, his career took off. So like the first fighter to ever knock down Evander Holyfield was Smoking Burt Cooper. And Smoking Burt Cooper probably would have beat Tyson in his prime because he was similar to Tyson. He was a little shorter, but he was stocky and he could hit like a friggin' Mack truck. So, and if you actually watch that fight, Evander Holyfield probably should have lost that fight because he turned his back and the referee had a questionable 10 count, a little slow, you know what I'm saying? And then Evander recovered and wound up winning in the later rounds. But Smoking Burt Cooper hit like a friggin' Mack truck. You know, we could do a whole thing on boxing, like, you know,
we should, because I feel like we talk about a lot of issues on the Swanglin Show and stuff that pertains to men in general and men's mental health. We've talked about, and we talk about being courageous and being advantageous and being a leader and doing all these things. And to keep it 100, man, a part of that is knowing how to defend yourself and being able to throw them fucking hands. So maybe we should do chop it up some more about some combat sports and some boxing.
Yeah, like Vladimir Klitschko on the Russian soldiers hitting them with them right lefts. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, it's crazy to see him out there. And it's funny because I shared a meme on my Facebook of Vladimir Klitschko, the mayor, in combat gear, and then on the right hand side is Senator Ted Cruz going on vacation when half of Texas was frozen and not getting any electricity. So it's like, how do you respond to emergencies? You know, a little slight difference on that front, huh?
Well, man, like I said earlier, it's all about survival and our perception of what it's going to take to survive. You can't blame people for trying to defend the little bit that we are able to amass and come about. So on the last episode of the Swanglin Show, episode 32 at the end, man, I felt like I just had to interject and drop a fire-ass record by my man, MrGrippz, the Swanglin heavyweight champion, the one and only Swanglin heavyweight champion in history on the one and only squad cast in history, the Swanglin Show. That was Birthright. So if you guys were peeping that and you were wondering, like, damn, that shit was fire, where can I get that record? You know, you need to make sure you take your fucking soggy ass down to motherfucking iTunes or Apple, or you go to fucking vicegrip.com, or you go to one of those fucking dope ass places where you consume your audio or your video content and you fucking spend a couple bucks on that shit and support the Swanglin heavyweight champion, because that shit's
all digital stores, anywhere you can get music. The Bear Jew Lives, that album was my first album back in 2013 when Ukraine was fighting for their independence. We could tie it all back in together. You know what I'm saying? I was writing songs like Act of War and pushing the, you know, my art to that next level. So the new album's also going to be coming soon, and that shit's going to be fire too. But, you know, we want to shout out to the Russian people. We fight for what we believe in, and that's what we do. With our
it's all about, like I said, my friend, it's all about that survival. And you had called out Marinated Mitch, man, the number one contender for the Swanglin title, man. So I'm going to give Marinated Mitch his flowers here at the end of Swanglin number 33, man. I'm going to play you this joint that's called Survival by Marinated Mitch's group, True Definition, with Ron P. from Jonesboro, Arkansas, and the heavyweight. This motherfucker's so dope. The singer world premiere representing Memphis, Tennessee. This is their group called True Definition. The song is called Survival, and it's some straight fire from the homie Marinated fucking Mitch and company out there representing the conspiracy family. Shout out True Definition, Marinated Mitch, conspiracy family is going down.
None of us are dealt the same two hands in life. And you never know what path one had to cross just to get where they are now. And sometimes you just can't put yourself in someone else's shoes.
We been scratching, hustling, trapping. Pockets young with money like traffic. Few thousand stand by on plastic. Smoking, choking, stressing, hoping. Anything goes my slogan. Macho Man versus Hulk Hogan. We been drinking, thinking. Game money never made no money. You want
say it, but it is what it is. I can spend 5K and it, clear out your shit. Or I can spend about a rack and probably get 2 hits. Smoking on this cabbage, the codeine that cause a habit. Trying to cope with the stress just to get through the tragic. Words crafted through passion, the weed helps imagine. Loud be so loud, you can smell it through plastic. Never been scared to try to make a little bread. When the shit hits the fan, don't you turn it to the feds. Better live by every little word that you said. Lie by the tongue or you could die by the lead. I stay ready to bust, bitch. Nigga get touched quick. Square up like some men or we can catch you in public. All the time I spend in county plus the months up in prison. Had plenty of time to think about how I'm gon' get it.
Scrape, scratch, hustle, trap. Pockets jam with money like traffic. Few thousand stand by on plastic. Smoke, choke, stress, hope. Anything goes, my slogan. Macho Man versus Hulk Hogan. We been drinking, thinking. Skate money never made no money. Whether you want it or you don't want it. Wait. Anything goes, I slogan. Macho Man versus Hulk Hogan. I've been losing my mind as of lately. It's getting hard to conversate with my lady. Having dreams of looking back of me making it. Pray to God my youthful choices have not stained me. But I have no one else to blame but to blame me. Uncle dying, but inside I'm crying out insanely. Cause a tender side I try to hide my pain more faintly. I've been working so hard, but reality says I can't be. Came us like Levy for mud, the era of good Cali bud. Cars all on dubs, Jordans was everything to us. Had to get it how we got it, and pray not to get anybody. Bumping Project Pay 36, got it. Play your fly, nobody needs nobody. Paper chasing was a fashion. It's what made work premier sounding mad. Scratch, hustle, trap. Pockets jam with money like traffic. Few thousand stand by on plastic. Smoke, choke, stress, hope. Anything goes, my slogan. Macho Man versus Hulk Hogan. We been drinking, thinking. Skate money never made no money. Whether you want it or you don't want it. Wait. Anything goes, I slogan. Macho Man versus Hulk Hogan.
Macho Man versus Hulk Hogan. I'ma crack this motherfucker open. You claim you were cheap, but you choking. I'm stressed to the max, but I'm coping. And you know Ron P was chosen. So cold on the mic, leave you frozen. See, my story got told like an autobiography. Living my life with this killer inside of me. Yeah, I'm on top and I'm facing reality. Knowing the moment that's bringing this tragedy.
Facing my demons
and fighting with strategy. Crushing whoever is mad at me. Fucking with us is just suicide. Got shooters and bangers with homicides. Why is you talking so heavy? My resume showing the world that I'm ready. When playing with me is like Russian roulette. I'm calling your bluff and I'm raising the bet. Always 1,000 with me and my team. So jump if you want and we smashing the scene. Throwing my hook, keep loking. I'ma crack this motherfucker open. You claim you a chief, but you choking. Stressed to the max and I'm coping.
Scratch, hustle, trap. Pockets jam with money like traffic. Few thousand stand by on plastic. Smoke, choke, stress, hope. Anything goes, my slogan. Macho Man versus Hulk Hogan. We been drinking, thinking. Skate money never made no money. Whether you want it or you don't want it. Wait. Anything.
Oh yeah, shout out to that boy Marinated Mitch. Shout out to that boy Marinated Mitch from Ron P. Represent Jonesboro, Arkansas. Shout out to that man. World premiere with them fire vocals. Representing Memphis, Tennessee. Oh, and look at that. True Ink. Oh, True Ink. That's that boy Marinated Mitch representing for the fucking conspiracy family, man. Fucking killed it. That shit was fire as far as I'm concerned. What do you guys think about that Marinated Mitch shit? Vice, how you feeling?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm plugged in with a couple connects here and there. So I heard the album before it came out, and that was definitely a standout joint to me on the project. So I was definitely happy when I found out that they were pushing to do the video and make that the lead single off the project. Because to me, the whole track just comes together well. And I think the video was shot, edited, and just overall quality joint.
Oh, yeah. Did it give you chills on your fucking skin to see Marinated Mitch masked up, flexing, letting you know he's coming for the Swanglin Heavyweight Championship, man, as the #1 contender?
Oh yeah, you know, we love that competition. So there was definitely goosies, you know, there was goosebumps. It was, you know, it's what we live for, the competition, you know what I mean? Proving who's the best and who should be number one and who should be number two, you know?
Oh man, and it's a fun thing to watch the competition go down. I mean, you don't want to know, dude, what it's like to witness fucking Kyle and Newkleus, whole singer, the fickle freckle boy living in the sea, in a fucking mid-hot August Jonesboro, Arkansas night. You don't even want to see what type of fucking things go down when we're down there in the dirty South representing with our homies, man. And we got to say, every time we represent for the dirty South homies in Jonesboro, Arkansas, we got to give a major fucking shout out and rest in peace and major love to the homie, Mr. Rage, Ryan Malott, RIP, to the motherfucking big homie. You know what I'm saying? I used to joke around with him and call him Clifford.
OG Furio.
Oh yeah, he was Clifford, the big red dog. You know what I'm saying, Mr. Rage, and we're showing some love to Marinated Mitch and playing that video because man, that shit is hard. I love it. I love the combo of Ron P and Mitch and world premiere all together as True Definition. You can go to truedefinition.com.
That's awesome.
And pick up. They got some fire merch and hats and shit. And also, I said, speaking about fire merch and hats, man, I got to give a shout out to my boy Eric Lewis, DJ Smarts. From way back in the day, been a homie for a long time, but done a lot of work for the Conspiracy family over the years on this dope ass Ohio made t-shirt, 17 stars clothing that you can cop from the homie super designer Eric Lewis, man, because he's fucking freak nasty with it. Dude does great work if you're looking for that in Ohio or anywhere in the motherfucking world. So it's been episode 33 of the Swangler, man. We're 33 deep. Next time we're coming episode 34 on the Swanglin Show. Can you believe that shit, Kyle? What do you think about this journey?
He's speechless.
Kyle is speechless about the journey that we've been on the Swanglin Show. There's no words that can describe the way that he feels deep down about where he's been, you know, and trust me when I tell you, I know where he's been and now where he's going from here. The fickle freckle boy living in the motherfucking sea, my co-host with the most, joining me on episode 33 of the Swanglin Show. I appreciate you very much, my friend. Thank you for your insight and inputs on this conversation. On behalf of the Swanglin heavyweight champion, I'm going to come in right now and do my fucking heel manager promo shtick to close it off. My name is Joshua P. Dunn. I'm acting on behalf of the Swanglin heavyweight champion, MrGrippz, heavyweight status representing South Florida right now. And on behalf of the whole fucking Swanglin and Swanglin worldwide, Swanglinville as a motherfucking population, we're going to let you know right now, don't fucking hate on my imperialism, you little son of a bitch.